All right, guys, Haney versus Garcia. Now, I would generally turn to Ariel Helwani when there was something going on that I didn't know a lot about. Professional wrestling, boxing would be great examples. I care about them. I can speak on them. I don't know enough of some of the intricacies and or the in and outs or the characters of the storylines where sometimes I will need to turn to Ariel, get a little bit of backstory, and then I can take it from there and come to you guys. But as I look at Haney versus Garcia, it's very fascinating to me. And the part that's so interesting is the surprise factor to the audience. It's the reveal to the audience of something that you thought was so isn't. And then you just start to wonder, what other things in life? What other things are there that I've had wrong? You shrug your shoulders. It's hard to know. You don't generally get forced and confronted with examples like this one on this stage, but now it's here. We might as well discuss it. Now, Ariel has come out. Ariel's got a very interesting take on this. And now I've lost it. I lost it on the page. My thumb hit the page, but Ariel said, fair and square in the ring. Obviously, he missed weight. I feel like if something's obvious, you never need to say that it's obvious, because it's obvious. But that sucks, Ariel proclaims. They need to run it back. Now, run it back is a football term, and that vernacular got brought over to MMA by Robbie Lawler after a win in an organization called Strikeforce. So we have a Robbie Lawler's run it back. Haney must be steadfast on the weight limit. The rematch will be gigantic. Now, is there a single word there that you agree with? Like, it doesn't make him wrong. I'm not proclaiming that Ariel's wrong. I'm just suggesting that whatever Garcia does next will be very big, and you cannot say that for Haney. You cannot say that whatever Haney does next is guaranteed to be a main event. It's guaranteed to be attraction. It's guaranteed to be something that you all care about. If it were at all a guarantee of any of those things, somebody would have called Haney out by now so that they would get to also be part of something that was big and gigantic. And they haven't done it. Garcia, on the other hand, has been called out by multiple people, including our own Sean O'Malley. Now, Sean said, I can't get him yet. I'm going to need 2 big wins, and then I could have him. A boxer, old Earl Spence, called for the fight. Garcia himself snubbed Spence and snubbed Haney, and actually went after O'Malley. So I want to go back and just focus on what Ariel said. Ariel says we got to do a rematch, but Haney's got to be steadfast on the weight class. Well, what would that mean? I mean, what would that look like? I absolutely will not fight you unless what? Are we going to make it a weight that he's just proven? Ryan Garcia just proved he's got trouble with and or cannot make a certain weight. Are we going to make it that weight? Because Ryan Garcia did make a different weight. So should we make the fight there? And as opposed to having Garcia do something that we already tried to get him to do and watched him fail at, and he did not care, should we bring Haney up? And I'm not asking you for like the final. So I got to do a contract now. If we're going to rematch these guys, I got to write these things down. And I need to write them accurately. Because if we're going to be steadfast, as Ariel suggests, we're not going to follow the golden rule, which we did over the weekend, or you guys wouldn't even be talking about it now, which is the show must go on. If we're not going to follow that, it's got to be a weight class that they can make, because he's going to be steadfast, which means if it doesn't happen, the fight is off, but some promoter is out $10 million for this little weight loss gimmick. So if that's the situation, what should I write down? Should I write down the number that Garcia said he would make, but didn't, and didn't care that he didn't? Or should we make it for the weight that he did make and let Haney know he can come up? I just ask you those questions because Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion, right? And we're talking about 3.4 pounds here. In my career, I fought 51 men, but I fought 7 of them before I ever saw a scale. I don't know what he weighed. He didn't know what I weighed. There was no way to know. There was no weigh-in. For my next 5 fights, we got on a scale, but it didn't matter what the scale said. The fight was going to happen. They just wanted to know what you weighed. So now we're at a different time. We're at a time where 1/10 of a gram, a pound, a kilo, 2 kilos for that matter, is the difference in getting your ass kicked and not. I'm not talking about a loss. Losses are different, and it's a game of inches and what the guy weighed the day before. I mean, Mike Tyson fought at heavyweight, which at that time was 265 pounds. He weighed in at 220. So in theory, he spotted every single opponent 45 pounds, but we've never discussed that. And for some reason, those 45 that he spotted don't even matter. Muhammad Ali first became the heavyweight champion, weighing 198 pounds. Muhammad Ali did not care about 67-pound, at least in theory, weight discrepancy. He didn't care. But my old partner thinks 3.4 pounds was the difference in the fight. Well, which part? Which part did those 3.4 pounds do? Did it stop your ability and inability, maybe I should say, to absorb a shot? Is that why Haney was down 4 times? Did Garcia put him down 1 time for each pound he had, rounding up? Is there a reason when a referee who is supposed to give, per the rules in the state that had jurisdiction, a warning prior to taking a point, didn't do that, just took the point? Is that enough? Like, which part of it? And which part of the rematch? Why would a rematch be huge? Because you can make a story about the weight. Well, wouldn't we all be on pins and needles? And wouldn't we be on absolute pins and needles? We would not order the pay-per-view ahead of time because we don't know if we're going to get the fight. We're not going to get the fight because of a steadfast hanging to it. We know of these 2 box, there's nothing competitive about it. There was nothing remotely competitive. But we're pretty sure if we took those 3.4 pounds, we now have something competitive. It's an interesting concept. It's an interesting concept. It's hard to tell a guy like me. It just is. But there are not a lot of guys like me. I think there's more guys on the other side, which is that those 3.4 pounds is what made the difference. I think that's right. I'm trying to think of how you would rematch that, though, right? I mean, when people get forced with a reality that they were so sure wasn't true, it's hard, man. It's hard to accept, and you want to deny it, and you want to see it again, you want to rematch it, and you've even figured out why it was those 3.4 pounds. So it wasn't that I was completely wrong about the alcohol, the partying, the lack of bedtime, the having a good time, the having the fun, while getting ready to do this thing that requires absolute discipline. It wasn't any of those things. You wanted it to be. You thought the guy that eats donuts will not be as prepared as the guy that eats his broccoli. You thought that. Someone had told you that. You wanted it to be true. Then you get confronted with it's not. We tell our kids, you want to be a great athlete, don't? And you say X, Y, and Z. And then you find out that the drug testers had to change the limits allowable of marijuana because the athletes in droves were doing it behind closed doors, to the point that the sports had to change what was an allowable limit to allow them to smoke the dope. And it was disappointing because you told your kids, if you want to be good at something, stay away from the dope. It's just one of those very interesting spots. And you can talk about nutrition, you can talk about it helps you. The one thing you won't be able to do is to bring forward an athlete who did not watch his nutrition, show us how he did, and then watched it very closely and show us a better result. You don't know. You don't know what that's about. You don't know what staying loose in there about. You don't know about not letting something focus, not let something drive you. Going out there and just letting your body, you don't know what gets you to that point. And instead of saying, apparently you can do these things and still succeed over here, it says that would hurt so bad. That's against everything that you've been told. So you got to blame it on something. There must be an answer. There must be a justification. There must be a reason. And Ariel Helwani believes that he's found it. It was 3.4 pounds on a day before weigh-in.